Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about Pokemon cards that define an era. We're going to delve into the current era, which is Scarlet and Violet era, and I'm going to give my opinion on 6 cards so far that I think will define this era. I guess for an era, we can probably narrow it down to a top 10, just because that's what everyone seems to do, isn't it? You know, you look at your top 10 most expensive cars in the world, you look at your top 10 favorite movies. I think for an era, you could narrow it down to a top 10. So because we've got about a year's left of the Scarlet and Violet era, we'll pretty much bang on a year. You know, we'll get 4 or 5 more sets this year, and we'll probably get one at the start of 2026. Geez, that sounds weird to say. 2026, far out, time's going quick. And then we'll be on to Gen 10. So let's delve into 6 so far, because I think we'll get another 4 that will define, you know, the whole Scarlet and Violet generation. But I think we've seen 6 so far. Hey, thanks to everyone that tunes into the channel. If you want to show some channel, or the channel I should say, some love, please click the like button and leave me a comment down below. I love having a conversation. I try and get back to as many people as I possibly can. Clicking like seems to help the algorithm. So if you enjoy the content, please click like and let's keep this channel motoring along. Right. I mentioned other eras and a top 10. So let's look back quickly before we go into Scarlet and Violet. Like if we look back to Sun and Moon era and Sword and Shield era, you know, if we look at Sun and Moon, you could easily pick 10 cards that define that era. Like, you know, Team Up probably had 2 or 3 of them. You know, Team Up, we had cards like, of course, the big one, the Latios and Latios. That card probably defines the whole era for Sun and Moon. That would probably be number 1 on the list, wouldn't it? Of course, we have the Gengar and Mimikyu. We also have that Wailord and Magikarp, which is just a cool alternative artwork that looks a little bit different. If we go down to Burning Shadows, we have the most expensive PSA 10 card from the era, which is the Charizard Rainbow, which is an incredibly hard card to grade. It has a very low percentage to grade a 10. Burning Shadows had awful print quality. Ultra Prism, of course, bought us the most expensive Waifu card in Lily. And you know, there's probably a few we could pick from sets like, you know, maybe Unified Minds, maybe an Unbroken Bonds, maybe Test Tube Mewtwo from Shining Legends, you know, a couple from Cosmic Eclipse, and we could easily get our 10. And if we move forward into Sword and Shield, well, of course, Evolving Skies just absolutely set the world on fire, didn't it? We could probably choose 3 cards at least from that set that completely define the whole Sword and Shield block and era. Lost Origin, of course, had the Giratina. Brilliant Stars bought us an alt art Charizard, which I think still feels a touch undervalued, and maybe it's because its pull rates weren't as hard as some of the other cards in that era. Like, it's not as hard to pull as what the Umbreon was. And of course, Fusion Strike now has is absolutely pumping and bought us cards like the Gengar and the Espeon. In case you were wondering where all this data comes from or where the imagery is from, it's from today's sponsor of the video, which is the Shiny app. It's a really cool app, and you can see how I'm using it to very easily check, you know, the top 10 cards inside a set. You can easily filter by set. You can add your whole collection into it. It's a really easy app, and I'll keep using it for the duration of this video. The link will be in the description to download it. You can put your whole collection, both single and sealed, into the app and track the profit you're making off it. So it's great for collectors and investors. Right, moving on to Scarlet and Violet. The first one that I think will define the generation for Scarlet and Violet, and this might be a little bit of a left fielder because it's not a special illustration rare, I think it's Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. And there's a couple of reasons for that. A bit like Burning Shadows, the print quality for Paldea Evolved was absolutely atrocious. And in fact, is it like the Fire set? Because Obsidian Flames gets even worse. But anyway, Magikarp from Paldea Evolved is an incredibly tough card to grade a PSA 10, and current PSA 10 pricing for that card is $1,258. It is up there. Raw price is $228. One of the reasons I think this card will define the generation to some degree, and look, I probably wouldn't rank it in the top 2 or 3, but you know, maybe it might be number 10 or number 9 or number 8 on the list. These are in no particular order, by the way. These are just 6 cards that I think will help define the generation for Scarlet and Violet. You know, it's a Shinji Kanda artwork. Fantastic artist. It's the same artist that has the Magneton promo from Surging Sparks in the Elite Trainer box, and it's also the same artist that bought us the Lost Origin Giratina. It has a real distinct I suppose, element to the artwork. I'm no critique of artwork, so maybe my explanations of it won't be the greatest, but you get my point. The artwork inside this card is absolutely phenomenal. The colors really pop. It's It's such a cool card to pull. If you pull this card from Powder Evolved, you're going to be absolutely stoked. Don't forget there's also the Gyarados that chills at the top of the card. In case you haven't seen it, it is sitting there. So it would have been an absolute banger of a set and probably would have topped it off. It would have been the cream on the top if Powder Evolved had a special illustration rare Gyarados to go with the Magikarp. And imagine if it was also illustrated by Shinji Kanda. That would just top that set off. The second one that I think will help define the generation for Scarlet and Violet is Bubble Mew from Paldea Fates. This card just keeps going crazy. It was only like 3 videos ago that I mentioned it was at, $330 and now it's up to $380 and PSA 10 pricing is north of $1,000. This card just keeps going in the same direction, isn't it? And that direction currently is up. It did have a little retrace there for a while. Once it got over 300, I think it dropped back down to 280, but it's just climbed north of 300 again. And look, love it or hate it. Most people are in the camp of loving it, I think, but there are some people that I think look at this card and just go, oh, well, it doesn't really do much for me. It looks like a little bit of a kid's artwork. But this is one card that I think anything that can get code named, hey, anything that can get some sort of code name behind it, like Bubble Mew, seems to, cement in people's mind. I'm not saying it's as good as the Moonbeam, which also got a code name from Evolving Skies, but you get my point. If a card can get allocated, the specialty of getting a code name, it means it's going to resonate with people for the generation. So that's why I think Bubble Mew will be one that resonates. The third one, and again, love it or hate this card, this was the first card that came out of the blocks for the whole Scarlet and Violet era really, really strong. So I think it deserves a mention. Again, I don't think it's going to be top 5, but it might be, ranked 10 or 9 or even 8 on this list, and that's the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. $328 is its raw price. It's a touch easy to grade. PSA 10 pricing $791. I think we've got about a 55-ish% conversion rate from all graded copies to converting to a PSA 10. Again, like I said, love it or hate it. Some people don't like the artwork. Personally, I'm a really big fan of it. I think this is an awesome looking card. I love the splash of color. After all, it is a kid's game. So, having a look at, imagine a kid pulling all this color and it's a special illustration rare, and Greninja's a fan favorite Pokemon. It ranks really highly whenever, any company or website or whatever it might be does a, list your favorite Pokemon. It was one of Ash's, favorite Pokemon or most used Pokemon on the anime series. So I think I think it deserves a spot in the top 10. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is we don't know what's coming for the next year. We could be hit with so many bangers that my list could almost be irrelevant. And, the top 10 could be made up of Team Rocket cards and, Journey Together cards and the Gen 4 set that's coming out. So, but anyway, let's continue. Number 4 on my list, I think 151 Zard deserves a mention. Charizard, I feel, gets overused a little bit in the Pokemon TCG. And look, I prefer this card over Obsidian Flames Charizard. For me, it's sort of on par with Paldea Fates Charizard. I think Paldea Fates Charizard is a much nicer looking Charizard than the Obsidian Flames Charizard. But this is part of the 151 set. And unfortunately, love it or hate it, 151 will just have that nostalgia factor, and you can't run from that nostalgia factor. I mean, look what Evolutions did during the XY era. That set was printed to absolute oblivion. It was piggybacking this success of the Pokemon Go app and the 151 original Pokemon that were launched in that. And it just felt like this awful copy of base set that just wasn't really done well. And it sat on shelves for a while, it was on flash sale for a while, and look at it now. It's riding on the back of that nostalgia, and Charizard from 151 will do exactly that. It's currently $245 and it's pushing $900 into PSA 10. It's also got the codename Sunzard, and again, those code names, like I said, they seem to hold some weight and people will remember these cards. It's not the most expensive raw card that you can get in Scarlet and Violet, but I think it'll help define, it'll be one of those definitive cards from the generation for Scarlet and Violet. Number 5 for me, it's got to be the mascot from the whole era, and that is Pikachu from Surging Sparks. This is the card that has come out of the gate the hottest out of all main sets. So ignoring prismatic evolutions, all main sets, this is the hottest card. You know, it pretty much come out of the gate at like $500 or $600. It's just under $500. We know how tough pull rates are for Surging Sparks, not as tough as prismatic evolutions, but they're tough. PSA 10 pricing, it's still holding on at above $1,100 as a PSA 10. I love these rainbow borders that they're doing now. They're so much nicer than the full rainbow cards we got all throughout Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield. They weren't really the prettiest cards to look at in my opinion, but these are. The rainbow border is so much nicer because you actually get to see the color and the artwork in the illustration of the card. And again, love or hate this Pikachu, it is the mascot and it's holding strong, and I think it'll go down as one of the best chase cards from the era. Number 6 on the list, we can't look past Umbreon EX. It has come out of the gate super strong. How much can it hold on? Current pricing's $1,500 or more. PSA 10, who even knows? We need to probably get some more sales data on that. There's been some incredibly high price purchase PSA 10s out of the gate, but I think we need to wait to see that population sort of settle, see how difficult that card is to grade a 10. We all know how tough pull rates are. It's incredibly hard set to pull the card you want, coupled with Master Ball holos. And like I said, if I'm saying a top 10 and there's only 4 left on the list, I think what it does is it indicates how strong an era Scarlet and Violet is becoming. That's what it's indicating, because, you know, we got base set and we grizzled because it wasn't Sword and Shield. We got Paldea Evolved and we're like, yeah, the Magikarp's sweet, but it's still not Sword and Shield. We got Obsidian Flames and people went, well, there's only one chase card, the Charizard, and nothing else is worth anything. But now look at some of the other cards rise up, like Ninetales and Gloom, etc. We got to whatever was after that, Paradox Rift, and people are like, yeah, this is mid, if that. Then we got to Temporal Forces and everyone's like, yeah, this is mid, it's a touch better than Paradox Rift. And now the whole era is starting to go boom. Even Shrouded Fable, like the Persian from Shrouded Fable, is going absolutely gangbusters. And you can clearly almost define Sun and Moon. Like, you can pick 10 cards. XY, you can pick 10 cards. Black and White, you can pick 10 cards. We get to Sword and Shield and we go, it's a little bit more challenging to pick 10 cards, but I think we can. What happens, in my opinion, at the end of Scarlet and Violet, I think we're really going to struggle to pick 10 cards. I think Team Rocket is going to have 3 or 4 cards that could be on this top 10 list. I think Journey Together will have a couple. I think the Gen 4 sort of Black and White remake might have a couple. And then all of a sudden we go, well, even like Prismatic Evolutions, we could have chosen 5 cards out of this that could make the top 10. This could be Evolving Skies 2.0, couldn't it? So I think what it does show us is how strong an era Scarlet and Violet is shaping up to be. I'm Michael, this is Pokeoz. Catch everyone next time.